this is Sia and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video reading another book, a new book, inside of my Clockwork Chronicles world based on the Hermits in Hermitcraft. Once again, this is not canon, as you can see from the note. This is a continuation of Clockwork Chronicles, my story, where I put YouTubers or Hermits inside of this world and see what happens. In this case, the Hermits. Yeah, this is not canon to the lore or story of Hermitcraft, so don't get yourself thinking that. Because I took some liberties from the first season Clockwork, and yeah, you can tell from the title, things are about to happen. Yeah. The title itself might be a spoiler. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. It's going to be taken in several parts. I don't know how many parts. We'll see. This is part 1. Yeah. This is after the events of Redstone Infestation, so you haven't read that one, be sure you do so, because there will be plot lines that might be mentioned that might have happened then or earlier than that and all that. Yeah, there'll be spoilers. And this is done in Impulse's perspective entirely, so there you go. Yeah, I believe. Yeah. Let's get right into it. Chapter 1. Impulse looked outside of his bedroom window, looking out to the forest below. He'd managed to trim it back considerably over the last couple of weeks, since the last time he'd had an encounter with Mysterious Men, wanting to see if he could make it harder for anyone to sneak around his base, much less see what was going on very well without needing to get closer. He'd had help from Blake, and a few other Hermits as well, hoping he'd make some sort of impact or distance. I don't know what I was doing with that. Ignore that. He shook his head as the morning sun poured into his room. He'd seen Skiz off back to his main world after Rose picked him up to return him to the safe house he'd been living in. The memory came to his mind as he smiled. A couple of weeks ago, Skiz hadn't been able to walk on his own very well, thanks to the Redstone virus the men had tormented him with. And now his friend was back to his old self again, eager as ever to tackle whatever life might bring. I hope to see you again soon, Impulse said. Giving his friend a wave. We should visit again sometime, in better circumstances. I'm down for that, Skiz replied, standing next to Rose at the portal with the widest grin on his face. Just call me if you need me, okay? Okay, buddy? Sorry. I will, Impulse promised, as he'd seen his friend leave the world, Blake standing beside him, as the hermit watched his friend disappear, touching the new communicator he'd made for himself in his pocket knowingly, as the hermit looked out at his own. Took out his own. His own communicator. Oh, wait. The memory faded as he looked at the screen, seeing a notice from Jem that she wanted him to pop over for a visit. He hadn't spent as much time with his two friends as he'd liked since they had returned from their adventures, mainly since he'd spent the entire week hanging out with kids. He smiled sadly as he pocketed the device again, as he turned to walk out the room, feeling a brief breeze brush against his ankles as he glanced over to the invisibility detector that he'd just passed. It was still working as it should. He wasn't taking any chances this time. The hermit walked over to the door and opened it, hearing the footsteps down the hall. Near the staircase, he looked over to see Blake exiting one of the rooms. The young man waved him over, as the hermit quickened his pace to greet him. Still planning to see Jem and Pearl today? Blake asked, curiously. Impulse nodded. Yeah, I kind of wanted to spend some time catching up after all the chaos that happened, and to come up with a plan. Since, Mr. probably wants my head after what happened. I'm still recording this. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. That's funny. I'm recording this after the incident of season 9 after the king was taken out, and the fact that he was holding Impulse's head for weeks. Red. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. The escort nodded. Fair, I suppose. I'll be ready in 5. Just got to set up one last thing for the base, so we don't have anyone trying to sneak in while we're gone. Thanks, Blake. Impulse smiled as he went down the stairs, making sure his wings were fastened securely over his shoulders as he looked around the main room. Everything seemed fine. Nothing was out of place or moved, and there certainly weren't any bubbles around either. He waited by the front door as Blake came down a few minutes later, looking satisfied as the hermit opened the door and stepped outside into the sunlight. It'd be a great day to have a picnic, honestly, Impulse admitted. Eddie looked up at the bright blue sky. There wasn't a cloud in sight. Yep, very, very peaceful, Blake agreed as he grabbed his rackets from his pocket as the hermit did the same. I didn't see any sign of trouble. Me neither, Impulse agreed as he flew up into the air, glancing down at the trees below, seeing the shadows of the branches dancing subtly from side to side. There wasn't any sign of Mistray's men at all. He wasn't sure if that was a good sign or not, but he'd been super cautious this far. Why would he change that? Sure enough, he could see Gem and Pearl's bases up ahead, the wall looking far more lively and colorful now. The hermit assuming that the girls were playing with the design a little bit. He could see something in between the two houses, a blanket or towel of some kind, with the figure sitting in one corner. As he flew closer, the figure stood up and the hermit smiled. Hey, Gem! Impulse exclaimed as he swiftly landed. I had to stop it. I figured you already knew that. Impulse exclaimed as he swiftly landed next to her, managing to regain his balance fluidly as they looked up to see Blake fly past them. Pearl's still working on the soup. I'm glad you made it. Gem giggled as she gestured to the blanket. Have a seat. I'd love to. The hermit replied as he eagerly sat down, feeling the warm sun on his shoulders as his friend sat down as well. Green wanted to come, but he wasn't sure if it would be a good idea to have the two of you nearby outdoors, Gem said casually. He said he'd call if he needed anything, and to let us know what the plan was. At least he's okay. That's what matters, Impulse replied with a nod. Caden's done a great job protecting him so far. Yeah, I'm glad we've managed to find someone worth keeping around. Gem chuckled before tilting her head. Sorry. What about you? Anything strange happen? No, not really, Impulse admitted. No one's been caught spying on me, and I haven't seen any sign of those men, or someone being around. What about anyone else? Gem pressed, as the hermit heard a distant door open and close, as he turned to seeing Pearl walking out of her house, proudly skipping towards them. Tango's dead seemed fine. Skid left yesterday, and I haven't called back yet, Impulse replied with a shrug. I haven't heard a word from anyone who needs help. Have you? Nope. Gem sighed as Pearl finally caught up with them, carrying a sugar box as she carefully put it down. I've got some soup. Do you want some? Not doing the impression, but I guess close. Pearl offered as she opened the box. I was waiting all morning for this. Yes, please, Impulse said happily as he took a bowl from her, full of some sort of suspicious stew. What's in this one? Doesn't look like regeneration to me. No, I played with the recipe a little bit, Pearl mused as she handed one over to Gem before sitting down with her own. It shouldn't be horrible, though. The hermit nodded, taking a sip, as the world around him fell into darkness. He jolted back a little, surprised, clutching the bowl firmly, trying not to spill it as the memory lurked back to him. Oh, no, not blindness, he groaned, trying his best to smile. Pearl laughed. Hey, at least it wasn't worse. Yeah, he admitted as the potion effect wore off. It's the same thing the soldier told me the last time I had that. Oh, hey, Pearl nodded sheepishly. You still want it? I got others you can try. No, I'll be fine. He smiled, taking another sip for good measure. So long as we all aren't blinded, it should be fine. Jim giggled. I think we all got that type of soup regularly. Well, the escorts are around here somewhere, so we have nothing to worry about. Pearl's voice replied as the hermit blinked again, finishing off his bowl of soup as he put it down, waiting for the blindness to go away. I gave him a reason not to like blindness. Yes! So, about the plan, Gem said quickly, once the trio regained their vision. What are we going to do on the off chance one of those men come after one of us or one of our friends? I mean, we do have our communicators to call for help, Pearl offered, taking out her own communicator. The metal gleaming in the sunlight, as light reflected from it. We do, but we can't always entirely rely on that, Impulse admitted. It's too easy to drop it or have it get stolen from you. That's true, Jem nodded thoughtfully. And the original plan for the backup crew definitely wasn't ideal. I mean, the protectors could probably figure out a way to on their own if they needed to, Impulse suggested. Like setting up their own small team that they can choose and they trust. There's still the slim chance of those people could backstab us, Pearl interjected. It's bound to happen no matter what we do, Impulse chuckled, shaking its head. But it'd give more of a chance of someone hearing us and helping us get out of the situation so we can get help or get to safety. Not a bad idea, Jem said happily. Plus, staying in touch and contacting each other when we wake up or go to bed still is a good idea. Our way of protecting each other, just like the escorts do for us. Yeah, you guys figured that out pretty quickly last time. Impulse chuckled. It took a little longer because Korean escorts stood in for him. But maybe, next time, we won't allow it, Jem offered. No hate to the protectors, but it's good to solidify it. Any plan is better than no plan, Impulse agreed with a smile. I'm so glad to have you guys. Same, Jem said with a wide grin. So, what do we do now? Pearl asked curiously, after the conversation died down. The sound of bushes rustling, twittering of birds, and the buzzing of bees in the distance were the only reassuring fact that life was still going on outside these walls. Maybe we have a little fun. Create something, build something, or confuse anyone who could be trying to spy on us, Jeb said thoughtfully. Just because we haven't seen anything doesn't mean nothing's happening. Maybe we can set up some defensive wall mechanisms, Impulse offered. When you mean we? Don't you mean you? I forgot to turn on Do Not Disturb. Jem teased. Well, it isn't hard to set up. Pretty simple, actually. Impulse chuckled. Mm-hmm, Jem nodded, slowly with a smile. That would be fun, though, Pearl pointed out, as she got to her feet. I'll go grab some redstone from my storage room for a second. Be right back. Okay, Impulse called back, as he too got to his feet, smiling. I miss messing with the other hermits, Jem admitted calmly. We can still do that, Impulse shrugged. Just need to be careful what we do. Right, Jem nodded, looking over at him. How long do you think it'll be before Mystery finally strikes again? I'm not sure, but I hope it's not any time soon, Impulse admitted, spying the wall warily, only to see one of their escorts passing by. I've got a lot of stuff I need to do. Are any of them related to stopping them? Pearl asked, as the two other hermits jumped. How did you know? Impulse teased a grin. I'm not scared of a little threat, and I know she isn't either. We're gonna finish this. I'm not sure how, but we can't just let them keep bullying us like this. Agreed, Jem said happily, as Impulse followed his friends to one side of the wall as he scanned the area. Impulse followed his friends to one side. I'm reading it again. Noting any potential spots where he could hide a little bit of redstone. He didn't mind the extra work. He could even get people like Tango and Mumbo involved if they were interested. This place was a haven, a place where they could be sure that Mr. A wouldn't get to them. That was his goal, his mission, to keep his friends safe and close. He needed them as much as they needed him. I'm going to end it here and go on with the next part a little bit, mainly because I just want this to be the super good part. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. Yeah, things are gonna get quicker from here, so stay tuned for whenever the next one comes out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one, whatever that might be.